Hi, everybody, and welcome to tonight's installment of Communal Conversations. Tonight, the topic is What Now? And tonight, Howard University students are going to be talking to you about how they plan to basically keep their voice heard now that the elections are over. So, as you know, Communal Conversations was created by the chapel to give Howard students the space to give their voice to the topics in the world, what is happening right now. They're telling us how they feel that they can go forward. And so every other week we've had just wonderful Howard students come on. And so tonight we want to just continue to keep this space safe. We want to continue to keep it candid. Share with us in the comments any of your concerns, any of your questions, any of your answers to our questions. But just remember to be respectful of everybody who is viewing and who is a panelist tonight. So without further ado, we're going to get started, and we want to introduce our students. So welcome, students.
Hi, everyone. My name is Inez Jacobs Hinton. I'm a junior chemistry major, math and French double minor from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I'm here representing the Howard University Philadelphia Club.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nigel Johnson. I'm a junior political science and economics double major from Port St. Lucie, Florida, and I'm here representing the Howard University College Democrats.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nyla Lampkin. I am currently a graduating senior, political science major, economics minor from the south suburbs of Chicago, and I am a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated Alpha Chapter.
Hello, everybody. My name is Nijan Washington. I am a political science and economics double major from Buffalo, New York, and I am representing Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated Beta Chapter.
Hi, everybody. You guys look great. I'm really excited for this conversation tonight. If you guys don't know in the audience, we have just some of the smartest and some of those most wonderful students that I've ever met. And they're just going to give us a great conversation. And so we're going to get right into it. I have a question for everybody. All you have to do is just raise your hand. Tell us in the comments if you're out in the audience. Raise your hand if you actually voted. Yes, everybody put in their vote. Thank God. We are so happy. Everybody, yes, Nigel. Everybody put in their vote. Yes, student leaders showing us the way to get this done. One thing we want to talk about is I want to ask you guys, how was your experience voting? And just how was your experience with the wait? Yes, we got people out in the thank you for voting. We appreciate this. I want to ask you, Nigel, what was your experience after voting and with the wait to find out the election results? Who did you watch? I'm an MSNBC girl, but who did you watch? What was your experience with the wait?
So I live in Florida, and we don't really have a good relationship with elections. So I was actually on the ground during election day, serving as a precinct captain at one of our local precincts, and I was doing some work and asking people, hey, would you like some literature from the Democratic Party? And I was called everything but a child of God. One person even called me a socialist. So I said, okay. But waiting for the election results, it was a little bit interesting because I knew that, the candidates who I wanted to win didn't necessarily need Florida to win, but it would have been nice if they did. And for a period of time, because we count our ballots early, it looked like Florida was going to go blue, but it didn't. It kind of hurt. But that night I remember going to bed early. I was upset. I was mad. I'm like, oh God, we're not going to win this. I was watching CNN, by the way. But the next few days, as the returns kept coming back and states started turning blue, slowly but surely, it became easier and much more interesting to watch. And it was like a weight lifted off my shoulders, but it was a process. I've never had to go through an election this long. But it was worth it in the end.
Absolutely. I agree. Bless you for being a precinct captain. That is a lot of work. Tell me, Nyla, how about you? What was your experience? How was the wait? Who did you watch?
So I'm a CNN girl. So I'm going with Nigel on CNN. However, I would say that, so this was my first time voting as well. I guess I should disclose that as well. So for me, it felt very empowering. I actually wore this same jacket when I went to go vote, but it felt very empowering to be able to go and use my voice And I made sure to like wear my hair in like this really big afro, like I said, and I put the jacket on so people knew exactly where I was voting, you know. I mean, like, so I think that for me, it was more of an empowering situation. The vote wait wasn't too long. There was a line, but it was worth it, you know. So I wasn't counting it. I wasn't counting the wait, you know, continuously. And then when I actually got to the front, one of the voting workers were messing with me, like, you sorority girls don't come in here and making those sounds, and you know, like, oh, it was a whole thing. But I think it was a very enjoyable experience for my first time to go and vote, and there was a lot of things tied into it, and I enjoyed the experience. And I'll definitely be doing it again.
Awesome. Yeah. Just want to check whose first time was it? You can raise your hand if this is your first time voting. Nyla and Inez, first time voters. Inez, I'm definitely going to have to ask you in the comments, please, if you feel comfortable, tell us how many times that you've actually voted. I think this was my third presidential election that I voted in. So tell us how many times you guys have voted, because I want to see kind of what's the range looking like here, or how many years you've been voting, if that makes you comfortable, you guys. But Inez, you're from Philadelphia. I know this has been a very interesting election cycle based on this experience. So please tell me your experience and just what it felt like waiting for those Philadelphia numbers to come in and register.
So this was also my first presidential election. I voted in the primaries earlier this year, but Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in general was, you know, had me on edge. I was very anxious. My voting experience was actually really good. I got to vote at my old high school, so that was good. And I ran into a couple people that I knew and just got to catch up. So that was good. There was a very long line because they had closed one of the other local polling centers. So, you know, that took away one place to go. But I am also an MSNBC girl, so I was definitely streaming that all day long. But it was very interesting to watch Philadelphia and then Pennsylvania in general. But overall, my voting experience was very good. I didn't wait that long. It was probably only like 15 minutes. I got my sticker and then was on my way. But yeah, I enjoyed the experience. It was very powerful. In line, I was just thinking, you know, how many people like don't get to do this, or how many people, you know, don't get the opportunity or even like the right to vote. So I was very excited to exercise my right to vote.
Absolutely. I am so proud of you, Inez and Nyla, to be first-time voters, and all the first-time voters I see in the audience, in the comments. I'm very proud of you. The first time is definitely an exciting one. I did absentee my first time, and then the second time I re-registered. So, you know, I've had a couple of different experiences. It's been kind of cool. Najan, I want to get to you. And one, what was your experience like this past week or the past 2 weeks, just waiting for the election results to come in? Yeah, what was that like for you?
I work at a law firm in DC, a political lobbying firm. So we had a lot of work that was surrounded around the election and researching the topics and researching the effects of what either side would do. For me, I really wasn't watching any particular news station. I was really on social media in terms of the live feeds that was coming from all of the different news cycles. So whichever one wasn't buffering, I was just switching to the next one. I had my Google page open to the Associated Press, looking at the election results, looking at the percentages, looking like, okay, Biden has a 54 vote lead. So it was very nerve wracking. And at a certain point, the first 2 days, every 5 minutes I was looking at the phone. Every 5 minutes I was trying to watch news coverage. I was in the house cooking, watching it. And then when we got to about day 2 and day 3, I was just like, okay, I have stuff to do. I got classes. School is getting a little hectic, work. So I'm just going to have to like make the updates when I see them. But overall, it was an okay experience. I voted absentee ballot. I'm currently in Baltimore, Maryland, but voted absentee in New York. So the experience is really just simple, just mailing my ballot off. But I think that's a testament to the new age of kind of voting that the pandemic kind of started. And you see the young voter turnout. 10 million of those young voters actually voted through mail ballots. So I think that this kind of new system of finding easier ways for people to just vote it's definitely a new system I feel like we should get in the habit of, because I know like with all the lawsuits and everything like that, like voter suppression and finding out all the different lines that people had to wait in, I definitely think that the 2020 election posed a new conversation on what elections need to look like in the future.
Awesome. I absolutely agree. I think this was definitely an odd voting experience, but it was one that was definitely necessary. I think we see all the ways that we're failing people, right? I don't know. It really stuck out to me. What's one thing that you all feel like you learned this past voting cycle, that you're going to take with you? I know for me, it was definitely just how, like I said, how much we're failing people in our electorate. But Nyla, can you tell me, what do you feel about that? What did you learn this cycle?
I'm really glad that you brought me into this question, because I was just at a discussion the other day. Posted. I don't know if you all are like familiar with the King Lecture Series with Donna Brazile, and those speakers. And there was a speaker on there. Her name was Latasha Brown. She really stood out to me. She stood out to me so much I followed her on Instagram later on. But outside of that, one of the points that she made was that we as a community have to continue to be strategic and tactical about our voting. So once we're voting, in these trends of like being a monolith, we have to be sure that we're supporting and using our voices for those that will benefit us the most, or will look out for the advancement of our group along with the advancement of other groups that may be marginalized, impoverished, going through different disparities within the community. We have to be cognizant of using our voices purposefully. And I think that is one of the main things that really stood out to me, and resonated with me from this election cycle, is being purposeful and using my voice in vote to make a difference for my community. So.
Absolutely. Nigel, can you get in on that question as well? What's something that you learned, and something that you're going to take with you?
Absolutely. And I would just want to go off of what Nyla said. I think not just something that I learned, but something that I hope everyone learned after this election is the power that Black voters have across the country. And we came out in record numbers despite voter suppression in many of the most important states that were critical to securing the electoral victory that Joe Biden got. So I think we need to be aware of the power that we have, but I do think that we also need to still be aware of all of the barriers that still exist, even in my home state of Florida, where there's massive felon disenfranchisement, and we know that many of those voters are disproportionately Black voters, and that happens all across the country. So I think we need to pay attention to that. And as we go forward into 2022 and into 2024, we need to continue to fight for those voters and those citizens to get their rights back, to be able to participate. Because now we see, literally 2020 has shown us why people will go out of their way to take away the power from Black voters, because we literally just swung an entire election.
Absolutely. Those are great points. I'm glad that you all voted, and I'm glad that you all have some thoughts. Now, what we want to do is we want to show you a video from another Howard student, Anaya Vines, who is with the Howard University NAACP. She has a quick statement, and I want you all to listen to her statement and then give us a little response, okay?
This is Anaya Vines here, and I just wanted to make a public service announcement on behalf of myself and on behalf of the Live movement and all the frontline orgs that have been putting in the work day in and day out during the social justice movement. Today is definitely a big day. We've definitely hit a lot of milestones, but let it not be confused that there's still a fight that needs to be fought out there in our community. Let it not be confused. We are still fighting for racial equity. Let it not be confused. We are still fighting for educational equity. Let it not be confused that there is still something called health that is not viewed as a human right. There are a lot of things that still need to have pressure applied to it, and we the people have that responsibility to make sure that whoever holds office, they are held accountable, and we the people will continue to be doing just that, holding them accountable.
Yeah, Anaya, I agree 100%. Inez, let me know what you think.
So I'm definitely in agreement. I think that, like Anaya said, one thing that we did was we hit a lot of milestones, but it's not over. There are still a lot of things that need to be addressed. We need to be holding, our local representatives accountable. We need to, like Nigel said, be intentional with, especially the Black vote and Black voting, because like he said, we just swung an entire election, and elected officials know that we are very powerful, which, like he said, is why, our votes are suppressed, but there are a plethora of issues that still need to be handled. Like I said, we definitely did hit a lot of milestones, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done.
Absolutely. Najan, I want to know what you think. I know Anaya pulled out a lot of issues that we're definitely having, like health and care and education. What do you feel like? What do you think about just moving forward and taking those topics and running? How do you think that we're like going to move forward with that?
I think as we've seen in this pandemic that Black individuals and Black movements have led this country and led the conversation in this country many times before. And I think that when we keep saying the power of Black voters, but also the power of the Black voice. And I think now we're actually seeing Black people are fed up and tired of being the people that support and being the foundation of this country, but never being able to have the opportunity to have the issues that they care about on the front lines of the ballot and the front lines of the policy issues that we're seeing in America. So when we look at all of the things, the policy areas, education, health, mass incarceration, voter suppression, all of those things are affecting Black voters and Black individuals most, and minorities. So I think that the biggest kind of takeaway is for Black voters and African Americans in this country to not only take power in their vote, but take power in their voice. And we've seen that in the latest uprising, when we take our voice back, we are a force to be reckoned with, and America must hear us.
Excellent, you guys. I'm excited. I feel like tonight is you guys taking some of that voice back. We have some more questions, and if you all in the audience have questions, please type them in the comment section. We are so excited. We want to answer some of your questions. I want to also say that Nyla is getting a lot of love, it looks like, from the wonderful sorors of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Yes, we love our sorors. Yay! And Inez, of course, period. I'm here for it. I'm here for everything that you guys are saying. So we're going to have a quick interlude, and then we will be right back. Welcome back, y'all. We are ready for some more questions. All right, so hopefully I don't get too tough on you guys, but I think that we can definitely ask some questions about moving forward now. I know that a lot of interesting things have kind of come up lately. I'm just going to ask one quick question, and then I see there's a question in the comment section. So we're going to ask this first question. There's been a lot of conversation very lately about just in the Democratic Party about reaching more progressive, the more progressive electorate. There just seems to be maybe a disconnect between the leadership and the more progressive wing. So I just want you all to talk about that. What have you seen that has been working, especially for yourselves, and what have you seen that has not been working, and where do you feel like, we can really improve in terms of talking to the future leaders of this country? And I'm going to actually start with Nigel on this one.
I think that's a good question. And I think that the Democratic Party is going to have to reckon with itself in this period, because in not just in Florida, but across the country, we lost a lot of seats that we didn't have to lose. And right now we're pointing fingers at each other saying it's the progressives' fault or it's the moderates' fault. And that's really not what the issue is. Say what you want about Donald Trump. He's disgusting, but he can speak to the lowest common denominator. And I don't mean he can speak to stupid people, but people can vote in this country when you turn 18. If an 18-year-old can't understand what it is that you're talking about, if they can't understand what your message is, then your message isn't right. It's not palatable to the people who it needs to be palatable to. So I think we really need to talk about, at least in the Democratic Party, the things that actually matter to people. We're a party of working people. So the minimum wage, that's stuff that people want to hear about. We need to talk about immigration. We need to talk about education. We need to talk about climate change. We need to talk about racial justice. But we need to talk about it in a way that people can understand it, that people don't have to go picking up a dictionary and an encyclopedia to come and try and decipher what it is that we're talking about. Let's just speak clearly to people. And I think that when we start doing that, when we start speaking to people and hearing in turn what people want to see, there's not really much debate about what people actually like in this country. People do want a $15 minimum wage. Believe it or not, people do like Medicare for all. People do like free public tuition for colleges and HBCUs. Those are things that we rally around. People do like universal background checks. So I feel like it's just a messaging issue. But I know the Democratic Party, they are kind of tone deaf sometimes. I shouldn't say they. I'm the president of the HUCD. We're kind of tone deaf sometimes, but I feel like we can come back from this as long as we start listening to our voters and start listening to people and actually speaking in a way that people can understand. I feel like we're going to eventually get back to that message, which is working class people and putting out ideas that people actually need to hear.
Absolutely. I agree, Dean Richardson. This is excellent insight. And Nigel, do not be afraid to say that. I think that what you said is excellent, and it's so important. You have to be able to speak to people in a way that they understand. And clearly the message is not getting across. I definitely want to speak to Inez on this question as well, not only because of just how crazy and unexpected, really. Well, I guess it's not unexpected, but just how important Philadelphia was, how important, the Black vote was in that area. Can you talk to me about what is missing and what's the next step to really pull in voters and Black voters, and especially Black women, because Black women, in my opinion, have really led the conversation. Just speak to us for a second. Yeah.
So Nigel was definitely right. I am definitely in agreement with everything that he said in regards to listening and giving people what they want, and not giving people, things that they don't ask for, and not giving people things to placate them, giving people things that they want and giving people things that will, make a difference. I know specifically in Philadelphia, we have a very large Black population, and the city tends to throw things at us just to be like, here, well, we did this, so it's fine, but not really listening to the communities, not really going out into the communities and asking people what they really want, or even in, town halls or local community events, not people will speak up and they'll be like, okay, great, but not really listening and not really, doing anything to put their best foot forward in regards to really making progress with those issues. And, especially talking about education, the Philadelphia public education system and the public school system is, it's in shambles, and people have been discussing this and talking about it, and especially Black and brown people in Philadelphia, because they're the people who are affected by it the most, and those are the people who are directly affected by it. And our elected officials aren't, holding themselves accountable, and we need to do a better job at holding them accountable as well. But like I said, just listening and, addressing issues that people have, spoken up about.
Excellent. I agree. Yeah, Najan, you want to get in? Just jump right in.
I just wanted to I agree definitely with both of them said. The one point I wanted to add was I think one of the Democratic Party biggest fault is the need to play politics. I think that we see that there's a large increase in young voters and young voter turnout and young voter political awareness. And I think that the pandering that often the Democratic Party tends to go after and the tactics they tend to employ to try to get the younger or more progressive crowds usually backfires, because it's just like Nigel was saying, it's kind of giving things that no one ever asked for. And I think that when we kind of drop the game of politics, we see even with the election, what Donald Trump was able to do. He was able to eliminate this illusion that he brought politics as the enemy, and he was the engineer against politics. And I think that in order to engage this new wave of voters, we saw the young voter turnout increase, and we're going to continue to see that increase as the population increases and more Generation Z is becoming 18 years old to be able to vote. We need to now look at those trends and look at the new age of communication. I think another thing in the Democratic Party, a lot of the mechanisms that they use to try to reach out is very outdated for the new times. And another thing that Donald Trump was able to do was use social media and use theatrics and dramatics to his advantage. And so while I don't think the Democratic Party should do that, I think that they should look at how you use social media and these different tactics and the new age of communication to really engage with younger voters. And just like Nigel said, see what younger voters and progressive voters actually want. And the conversation shouldn't be progressive or moderate. It should just be, what are the real concrete issues and how do we fix those issues?
Oh my gosh. You guys are, I'm so happy right now. You guys, please let us know in the comments, just respond to these students and ask them more questions, because clearly they can handle anything. We actually have a question in the comments right now from Jean Fonet. I hope I'm saying that right. I want to ask you all, what can students do to hold their elected officials accountable for the promises they make? And how can we get more involved in the political process to make true change? I know Inez mentioned we have to keep them accountable. So how are you all just going to keep your elected officials accountable? How have your orgs been doing it? What do you see? Nyla, I'm going to start with you.
Okay, thank you. I was gonna say, especially in holding someone accountable, and holding our elected officials accountable, I think that you hold them accountable with your vote. You hold them accountable with your support, who you continue to support, and who you openly support on social media or whatever communication platforms that you use. That is your source of accountability, because that's their source of power. You are their source of power. Where you decide to put your support is their source of power. So when you're holding them accountable, I think that we have to continue to be verbal in the exact things that we need as a community. And I think it has to continue to be, our scholars, our youth, everyone working together to culminate the exact targets that we need to hit as a community, the exact things that needs to be improved, and those that are delivering the improvements within those exact fields of what we said that we need for our communities, whether it's healthcare, whether it's education, whatever it is that specific group needs. They need to continue to hone in on that need and make sure that need is met. And if it is not met, then start using your voice, your vote to put somebody in that's going to make sure that need is met. I think that's how we have to kind of keep the conversation going. And we have to continue to be verbal with one another whatever your forums are, whether we have think tanks, whatever it is that it needs to be, we have to continue to have these conversations with each other, whether they're comfortable or uncomfortable, because they're necessary. So I think that that's one of the things that we have to do as well. We have to keep an open line of communication, and we have to be, like I said, tactful with our votes. If they deliver, continue to vote them in. If they don't, send a message. It's time to get them out. And it has to continue to be candid that way.
Absolutely. I love that. First of all, I love that you said use your power. This is all about, you don't just have power one time. You have power every single day. Okay. We are like, it's government for the people, by the people. That is awesome. And definitely talking to each other. I think that that's something very interesting, because I feel like, these conversations definitely happen in-house. But what happens when you kind of build up a community of people who are recognizing these problems together? Najan, I actually want to ask you, because I know you said you work in a law office. Just talk to me about what kind of difference you see on that side of things when people come together and really try to make a change.
Sorry. So I definitely think that it's really about pulling up the people behind you. I think just as Nala was saying, expanding your voice, but to add kind of a second step to that, those people who have the access and the power to make those political decisions need to bring along the people that are less informed. And I think a lot of times we kind of we embarrass, or we don't educate those people who are not knowledgeable about the different things that's happening on a political landscape. And I think that we have to have a certain type of social awareness about the different issues that everyone is facing, and that everyone is going to Howard University where they're on a political and social platform that gives them the tools to be able to effectively think through these types of issues. So when you look at just the everyday person in these different cities and communities, we have to engage with those people in a different type of way than the educated, college-educated, HBCU-going student. We have to look at those people and figure out, how do we educate them? I think it's enough for us to educate ourselves and do our due diligence, but our accountability really lies in, what about our family members? What about our moms, our brothers, our younger sisters, our younger cousins? What are we doing to make sure that they're prepared to have those conversations as they're entering high school and we're seeing young Black men and young Black females killed in the streets? What are the conversations that we're having with them to tell them that this is what we need to do? This is how your voice is used. What are those lessons that we're teaching? So I definitely think, even in seeing working in the political field and seeing kind of the different mechanisms that's shown in both the public and private, the biggest thing is really the tools that we use to educate people. And I think that we haven't done a good enough job in educating those people that often aren't looked at as the people we should be focusing on.
Wow. I mean, excellent. I can't say it enough, you guys. I'm super, super impressed. We don't have too much longer, but I'm going to try and get in one more question. Okay. I just want to know, Nigel. Okay. What do you think is the next phase for not just the Democratic Party, but for America? Like, where do you see this country going? We're about to have a new presidency, a new administration. Where do you see this country going, and what do you think is the first step in getting there?
So I would have loved to say that this election was a landslide. I would have loved to look back on 2020 and said, Joe Biden just beat the crap out of Donald Trump, but he didn't. It was split, and it was way too close for comfort. And that it's kind of uncomfortable to know that many people still support Donald Trump, and not just Donald Trump, but what Donald Trump stands for. And I think Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, she said it correctly. You can get rid of Donald Trump, but that doesn't get rid of all of the systems that he's been perpetuating. That doesn't get rid of all of the toxicity that he's put out into the political atmosphere. That still stays there. So in terms of moving forward, we have to continue pushing, because that's still there. There's still people with their Trump flags waving around because they still believe in that mess. But it's also in terms of what we've been talking about, accountability. And I think the number one way to hold someone accountable is to know what they're capable of. If someone came up to me and asked me to run a 5K tomorrow, I'd look at them like they're crazy because I don't have the capability of doing that tomorrow. The same thing applies with politicians. We won the House of Representatives. That's great. And we wanted to win the Senate, and it looks like we're going to have two runoffs in Georgia. And God willing, if we win those 2 seats, we'll have a 50-50 split. And then Senator or Vice President Kamala Harris is going to be the tie-splitting vote. But God forbid we don't get that. Joe Biden's going to have to compromise, unfortunately, with other people. That doesn't mean that we stop holding him accountable because there's a Republican Senate. And I think we have to know what it means. We have to know what he's capable of doing. That's what accountability is doing your research. So knowing what Joe Biden is able to do. On day one, Joe Biden has the power to re-enter the Paris Climate Agreement. That's climate change. On day one, Joe Biden has the ability to negotiate prescription drug prices. That's healthcare. On day one, Joe Biden has the ability to say to his Secretary of Education, hey, we need to cancel $50,000 in student loan debt. Imagine how great that would be. On day one, Joe Biden can go back and reverse all of the stuff that Donald Trump did with Dreamers and DACA and his wall and immigration. Those are all powers that Joe Biden has in his hand right now, that he doesn't need a Senate, he doesn't need a House of Representatives to approve of that. He can do that. And the more people that know that Joe Biden has that power, the easier it is for us to hold him accountable. The easier it is for us to show up outside of the White House at a protest. The easier it is for us to call the White House hotlines and call people who we know support Joe Biden to make sure that he's doing those things that we know he has the possibility to do.
Excellent. Absolutely. I agree. Set your expectations, hold people accountable, and build a network of, educating a community that's going to educate each other. That's honestly just everything, you guys. Inez, I want to ask you specifically locally in Philadelphia. I know, like you mentioned, there's just so many problems that we can see at the local level. What for you is the next phase? What do you look forward to in this new year?
I think one thing that everybody can do that's kind of, the same thing that Nigel said, but is continuing to apply pressure and continuing to hold, like I said before, our local representatives accountable, as well as on a national level. Like, one thing I have been encouraging people to do is follow their local representatives' voting patterns, because that'll show you directly, if someone is campaigning and saying, I'm going to do this for, the healthcare system in Philadelphia, and I'm going to do this for, COVID relief, and I'm going to do this for the education system and this and that. And, they vote and they don't vote on it. Like, now, I would also, I look forward. I'm a protester. I go out and protest as much as possible because I feel like that's, what I'm passionate about. And I think that it's very important that everybody finds, what their niche in this whole, movement, because if you don't care, other people aren't going to care either. If you don't care and you're trying to tell other people to care, they're going to see that you don't care. They're going to see that you're not passionate. But when you are passionate about something, your heart is in it. And that's how you keep your heart in, this social work is, finding something that you're good at, finding something that you love to do, finding something that holds value to you and that you can see, help your community directly. So I'm just looking forward to applying pressure, like I said, holding people accountable, and just hoping to move forward into a better time and a more progressive time.
Oh, yes, Nyla.
I really like the point that Inez made, especially about like diversifying the way that you advocate for things, or diversifying your participation as well, because that's one of the things that I really noticed too. There are different ways that people can become involved in a movement, or can become like involved in inciting change. Sometimes it could just be your profession, what you want to do with your future, what you want to do with yourself. You know what I mean? Like, that's the way that you make an impact on the world. You have to put that first step forward. And then, like Najan said, bring somebody up behind you and make sure that they have that same pathway, that same opening to opportunities, or whatever it is that you impacted in life with your personal purpose, you have to assure that that purpose is going to be something that creates bigger change for the vast majority. I think that's a nice point to make too. Like, not everything has to be overt protesting or involvement. Sometimes it could just be within yourself and what you want to do with your life and making sure that you're doing the right thing with your life. So,
I mean, oh yeah, go ahead, Inez.
Sorry, I definitely agree. Like, everybody does not have to be out in the streets protesting. Everybody does not have to be, outside of City Hall with picket signs. Everybody doesn't have to be like super overt. It can be like Nyla said, your career path. It can be, just mentoring, educating yourself and continuing to educate others. Like, everybody does not have to, and not everybody can afford to, go out and protest and go out and be banging on politicians' doors in the middle of a pandemic and a health crisis. So, there are things that you can do from your couch. There are things that you can do from your job to, help us and, help the people who are out in the streets protesting and doing things like that. But not everything has to be, everybody doesn't need to be doing one specific thing. There are so many ways that you can help. There are so many ways that you can get involved.
Honestly, you guys, this has been just one of the best conversations I've ever had. You all are so genius. Oh my gosh, I loved everything tonight. I want to say thank you, number one, to all of you. I really feel hopeful for my future now. You guys, we are building communities that educate, okay? We are holding people accountable. We are setting realistic expectations. And most importantly, we are finding our niche so that we know where we can be most effective. Thank you guys. Inez, Nigel, Nyla, and Nijan, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are just super happy to have you. We want to thank our producer, who you cannot see, Mr. Joseph Dillard. He has just been an excellent help and just manager of this show. Thank you to the entire chapel staff, and especially Dean Richardson, for allowing us this space just to let these students share their brilliant minds. And of course, thank you to everybody in the comments. Thank you for watching and sharing. Special shout out to Erica, who is not with us tonight. We cannot wait until you get back up here to have conversations with these students. We are so happy, and we hope to see you in a couple weeks for our last installment of the semester. Thank you guys. Bye.